All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to What's Up, the show where we talk all things energy. We'll share some stories, maybe even share some laughs, and we'll give you the information you need to make informed energy choices. I'll be your host for this episode. My name is Colin Adkins, and I'm joined by my fellow community energy advisors and Cornell Cooperative Extension educators working on NYSERDA's Community Energy Engagement Program, Sean Welsh and Danielle Salisbury. Through this program, local community energy advisors in 10 regions across the state help residents and businesses reduce their energy consumption and energy costs and make informed energy decisions. We'll share our contact info on the screen a little later on and also in the chat. Anybody out there watching on Facebook Live, feel free to post your questions in the chat, join in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. And this week we have a very special guest. Raya Salter is a policy organizer for the New York Renews Coalition, a network of nearly 200 environmental and climate justice organizations in New York State. And she's also a member of the Climate Action Council, which was established as part of the recent Climate Leadership and Citizen Preparedness Act to develop a plan that will lay out how to achieve New York's emissions goals. Welcome, Raya. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys and gals and human beings.
This week we're gonna discuss some of the connections between energy and affordable housing, and we sort of began this discussion 2+ weeks ago now when we were talking energy bills and then energy budgets with Daphne Rose Sanchez, and we realized there's so much ground to cover here. You can't do it all in one show, so we reached out to Raya, who's doing some incredible work around energy justice to help continue the conversation. So to start us off, why don't we first define a little bit for our audience as well as for ourselves today what we mean when we talk about energy justice. Would anyone like to try and answer that question? I'll, without putting Raya on the spot, I listened into your webinar that you did for the Life Coalition, Raya, the Low Income Forum on Energy, and there was one piece that stood out in particular. It kind of broke energy justice down into 3 different components. And it also, you did a great job of kind of showing the journey that energy justice has descended from and evolves with these other movements happening out there. But you broke it down into 3 pieces, which was, you know, like that it's available, affordable, and sustainable, that it's developed with due process, transparency, and accountability and responsibility. And that energy is fair and equitable among and for generations over time. So I love that definition, and if anyone wants to kind of add to that or break that down a little bit more, welcome to do that.
Well, you know, I am just trying to be polite because all I could think of is, I could jump all over answering that. So I want to leave room for other people who might have something to say. But I'm also happy to, I'd be very interested as somebody who, as you mentioned, has studied energy justice, which, you know, there's a place for that. What it felt like what do folks think of when they think of energy justice? I'd be interested in what folks here, my hosts, think.
Well, I think we've got a lot of work to do on this front, and I think that it is, you know, when we look at some of our communities who just unjustly have a higher energy burden than others, I think it goes back to the history of to our nation, honestly, and to the history of how we've built in certain areas, the history of how certain communities became settled, and how we built some different facilities and affordable housing complexes and things, and how an eye on building science was never really, I mean, in housing in general, building and science is kind of a new concept. So I know in a lot of our communities, we didn't when we built, you know, certain areas in the state, we didn't have that kind of eye on building science. And I think that those two, the intersection of building science and energy burden is a space for a lot of work and a lot of programs that could intercede now and try to help folks get up to speed so they don't have these extra burdens.
I say I would agree, and I think it's I 100%, you said a lot of things, but going back to root causes of these inequities, which are also the root causes of our current climate crisis. And certainly, as was mentioned before, what we think of as energy justice and even climate justice is rooted in the struggle for environmental justice, which you in part, laid out. So certainly, I agree 100%. And yes, now as we are dealing with these buildings, this building science question, I'll share an example and I'll let other folks, I'm interested in what other folks think of this energy justice question. But I know when I was working at the Natural Resource Defense Council, and we were very focused on affordability and energy efficiency, and we were working with some building engineers, and they were just talking about the building stock in our area and how, some of these buildings, these large buildings were literally built, to just burn coal and have these huge, vents and holes in the roofs in different points to just sort of, to accommodate that. And folks were not thinking when these buildings went up that climate crisis is going to be an issue. So there's some, we have this wonderful, a lot of it is this wonderful, beautiful, infrastructure and architecture. Some of it wasn't so wonderful, just about all of it needing some very significant upgrading, some of which is quite complicated. Very complex. And so, and some of these, go into the basement of some of these buildings, one of the engineers is literally talking about it like it's almost a furnace whispering, because there's so much history of wires upon solder upon glue upon like you start taking things apart, you don't know the damage you can do. So anyway, that's extremely interesting point.
Yeah, the building stock in general is very diverse, and throughout the Hudson Valley is such a large, diverse area. When you talk about Westchester County on up through Orange County, and then you get to like Sullivan County, where we have a very different housing stock as well. It is an interesting conversation when you consider all these different building types, the building codes, the history of those, and all these moving parts over time. And what it's left with us now is just a lot of work to do.
A lot of work. And I remember when, again, thinking back to, it's been a couple of years now, but we were working with Housing and Community Renewal, because on this exact question, they've got this massive portfolio, and some of these huge complexes were actually the same building. Like it was like fascinating to think about, like, and they're trying to think about this, you've got like in different states of repair, but the same building in terms of what they built, and sort of using, say, if you can take a look at, say, the building performance, and track the data and collect it, which is a challenge, but we're trying to do it, and then think about the solutions, and then you've got solutions for that type of building. So it is building science is fun and interesting for both, for some of us.
No, it is 100%.
I'd be interested, Danielle, what do you think of when you think of energy justice?
Well, I mean, a lot of what Sean said. So everything he said, and I would just maybe even add a component of making sure everybody has access to renewable energy, and I'd say that's just a big part of it, to renewable energy and renewable energy programs.
Right.
Yeah,
The
access
transition that we're in, that we bring everybody along with us, and not just bring everybody along, but correct some of the inequities that have been in place. Just to mention one, that according to the report from the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, that these low-income households and renters, particularly among African-American households, Latino households, all paid more for utilities per square foot than the average household. So the building itself is less efficient that folks are coming from. So
there's been a real explosion of work and study on the justice issues, in particular with energy efficiency and spending on energy efficiency and what that means. But from NRDC, what we were doing, but also Professor Tony Reams at the University of Michigan. There's been just a lot of study in this area. And as we know in New York State, we've got a huge emissions profile in New York State, but we've got some of the lowest per capita emissions also in all the 50 states. And that's because of the folks who are living so densely in the urban areas. So it's like, the climate justice principle, those who are contributing, have done the least to contribute to climate crisis, but are going to experience it first. These are the communities that we should be looking to direct resources towards. The environmental justice cumulative impact principle you just referred to, cumulative impacts, that these things have happened over time, and we have to take that to consideration as we're thinking about ways to go forward.
So my next question is, I'm gonna pitch it to everybody. I would like to see if everybody can try to answer this next one. That is, what is New York currently doing to address energy affordability? And Raya, I know you're intimately involved in this work, and I'd like to see if Danielle and Sean are willing to share a little bit about the work that we're doing and how the role of the community energy advisor plays into this important question. So Raya, to you first.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in New York State. We've got some very significant energy efficiency goals. We're the state as a whole. We just had this new CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. It's trying to get us to 100% renewable energy by 2040 and 100% net zero from all anthropological human caused sources by 2050. So that's a really big deal. It's the biggest goal in the entire state. And I think folks in the state and certainly advocates know that energy efficiency is where you got to start because it's it's a win-win, and it's also often the most equitable approach. But there are a lot of challenges, and I think the state is trying to take them on, building electrification being prime among them. And right now, actually, and before I'll stop after this, so there are a lot of efforts underway. However, this current COVID economic crisis cannot be overstated. Need has exploded. There's been some bills, and folks are saying, we know we can't just shut off people's utilities. There's some shut off moratoriums there, which is great. But the need is exploding, and it's more than ever, and that's only going to increase as we head into the heating season, the cooling season, right? It's going to be blazing hot. So there's some tremendous challenges that COVID has also overlaid. And so New York, I was starting to roll out my speech like this was January, but now in June, we've got some catching up to do, to be honest. The state, we got to figure out what the heck we're going to do.
Right. So I think that actually leads nicely into what are the kind of boots on the ground also doing around this. So Sean or Danielle, would either of you like to share kind of our approach and how the community energy advisors fit into all this?
Yeah, sure. Well, we try to connect people with the programs and the resources that are available through NYSERDA. Really, we looking at electric reduction and energy efficiency is like kind of the roots of those programs. But community energy advisors also kind of, we look at what else is available. So if there's a program that could fit somebody's specific needs that's available through utility, or let's say they have a roof leak. I just got off the phone with someone who had a roof leak. They wanted to address that. Obviously, we don't want to put insulation in those walls if you have a leaky roof. So what are the community resources available in those areas? We really try to be familiar with the lay of the land in the Hudson Valley of, those additional programs that can help folks. So we really, if you're out there and you're listening, you have a drafty house, you have you live in a building, even a complex, connect with us and we can talk to you about the programs available in your area to help. You can go to our website, HudsonEnergyChoices.org, fill out our intake sheet, and we can connect you with the resources that can get you on the road to, more comfortable, affordable housing.
Anything to add on that from anybody?
I'll say that it's so important what you guys are doing, and there really is such need, and it can be really hard for for customers and for residents to kind of understand what's going on. So, and and get those improvements. So anything that I can do, folks can do to get that word out. All I can say is good things, and I hope I'll go out. I hope that some of these incentives can just really, at this point in time, like this is just my own personal opinion, but like if we could just, so often they hover just around market. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes there's there's a lot of requirements in terms of what you got to bring to sign up. And I don't know if there's a way we can just sort of like kind of roll some stuff out for people, but
We're thinking about it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
I wish we had more time to talk on this. We could talk about this, I'm sure, all evening long. But we do want to let you go, Raya, so you can go on with your evening. Please tell us where can people get a hold of you? Where can people reach out and learn more and learn about you?
Sure, please. And I'll share it in the chat. I'm on Instagram at #GreenGirlMagic.
We'll post it in the Facebook chat.
I'm on Green Girl Magic on Instagram. I'm on Twitter at Earth2Raya, Earth like T-O Raya. You can hit me up with an email. To be honest, social media is kind of a good way to kind of keep track of what somebody's up to. And that's how you can, an easy way to stay in touch with me. Oh, I have a website as well if people want to learn more about that.
That's
Oh,
right.
and I'll send the link to the Climate Action Council has a page as well. And there's a Climate Action Council meeting next week.
Is that a public meeting?
Yes, well, yes, it'll be a web thing, but it
Right,
is.
okay.
Sorry, I'm like, you'd think I'd have it memorized.
That's okay. We'll make sure we get the info in the chat for everybody so they can check that out. Definitely go check out Raya's website, rayasalter.com. And just to kind of close us out, there's people to help, and all you got to do is ask. All you got to do is reach out, and that's how we're gonna get through this. We're gonna continue to get the word out. We're gonna continue to help each other. So Raya, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We'd love to do more. If you'd like to come back and do another one of these sometime, tell us a little bit more about what you're working on. And with that, I'm gonna put our contact info on the screen for your community energy advisors. You can always feel free to give us a call, send us an email, go to our website, midhudsonenergychoices.org, check out what's happening there or fill out our form, and we'll reach out to you. Until next week, thanks everybody, and look forward to talking again soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.